السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام. وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم. إني سلم لمن وحرب إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبا، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وأنجبت وتنقبت لغطائك. بأبي أنت وأمي، بأبي أنت وأمي. لقد عظم مصابيبك فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بجاهك والخليق والمقام أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثاني مع إمام هدى الظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يؤتيني بمصابيبكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تنال منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد اللهم إنا هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن عاقلة الأكبر اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقدرهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليه السلام اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر الأهل مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين اللهم خص أنت وظالم للعنين وابدع به أولا ثم عن الثاني والثالث والرابع اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمران وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على أصحاب الدين الحمد لله على عظيم رزيته اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا حجرهم دون الحسين عليه السلام
We would like you to start, Maulana. Thank you.
السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله من أول الدنيا إلى فنائها ومن الآخرة إلى بقائها. الحمد لله على كل نعمة وأستغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه وهو أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين، بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. It is 1442 years after Hijrah of the Holy Prophet from Mecca to Medina, and 1381 years since the Ashura of the 61st Hijrah. Despite the passage of time, the essence, the weight, the magnitude, the might, the message of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, every year it grows mightier, stronger than ever. And every year we see that it blossoms, and every year we have new devotees, new adherents, new members, new ways that attract us to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And this year in this global shutdown, it's another medium, another way that we will be approaching Abu Abdullah al-Hussein through a digital medium. And this is going to be a new experience, and in fact a beautiful experience where we, in our own space, in our own homes, in our own hearts, we will be connecting to Sayyid al-Shuhada Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam says, إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لا تبرد أبدا. There is a heat in the hearts of the mu'mineen for the massacre and the murder of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, which never cools down. And this is a fact. We see that every year that passes, people who are attracted and attached to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, they are far more in number. Everyone who is lost, he finds himself and before the existence of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in the majlis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. For sins where we find no way to get forgiven, the outlet is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. These majalis that are held for Sayyid al-Shuhada, they are a special bonus, a special asset, a special way that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He has placed to forgive His servants, to forgive His creation. An ayah in Quran says, قُلْ اعْمَلُوا فَسَيَّرَ اللَّهُ عَمَلَكُمْ وَرَسُولُهُ وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Do what you want, your amal, your actions. Indeed, Allah is watching. Indeed, Rasulullah is watching. And some of the mu'mineen, they have the access and they too are watching. A majlis that is held for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, the host of Azhar is Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha. The host of Azhar is Amir al-Mu'mineen Salamullahi alayhi. And amazing benefits, amazing rewards are there for these majalis that are held for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. It is the night of the first majlis, and we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to not make this majlis of ours the last of our life, and to make this one the best that were observed in love and in sorrow of Sayyid al-Shuhada Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. Now, some etiquettes to observe, being the night of the first, we have to be dressed in black. And then every day to recite Ziyarat Ashura, the full form of it, with the 100 Lan and Salam, and with the Dua al-Qama, which is after that. Now, this has been the etiquette and adab of the noble that they observe, especially these first 10 nights, starting from tonight. And then be dressed in black. And wherever you will participate in the majlis, now, if due to this lockdown, if you are doing to observe this majlis in your own space, in your own homes, all the adab, the etiquettes that you used to observe when you attended a Husayniya or a masjid or a matam, all of that be observed even in our own homes. Not multitasking, holding various devices and gadgets in our hands, and then with our own thoughts and wandering around. No. All that adab has to be observed, and as if this i'tikaf is there between us and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and we will sit and we will mourn. And then we resemble Imam al-Asr alayhi salam in that thing. Now, although we don't have any resemblance with the Imam, but when it comes to crying for Abu Abdullah, crying for the Masa'ib of Hazrat Fatima, salamullahi alayha, crying for the Masa'ib of Hazrat Zainab, salamullahi alayha, there we can say that, Imam, we don't have any resemblance with you, but these tears that you see on my face, this sorrow that you see in me, this grief that is within me, that is something which is common between the two of us. So that is something which Allah loves, which Allah buys at a lavish price. Now these majalis that are held, they are all because of Amirul Mu'mineen and Hazrat Fatima, salamullahi alayhima, and we see that it is that love that we have towards them, as a result of which we come to the majlis of Abu Abdullah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he says, لو اجتمع الناس على حب علي ibn Abi Talib, لما خلق الله النار. If mankind, they had united upon the love of Ali alayhi salam, Allah would not have had created the fire. Now, because people, they have not united under the banner of Amirul Mu'mineen and under the love of Amirul Mu'mineen, then there is a fire also that is required for punishment. So give importance to these nights, and special observances be observed, and this month has to be different. And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He says that this azah, it is nur, and it will be that nur that will be given to us that will help us pass the sirat in the hereafter. Crying for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein has numerous benefits, numerous. And one of them, as many as 40 effects have been listed by the ulama. And one of the effects that we see, which is great, is إن البكاء على الحسين يحط الذنوب العظام. That crying on for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, it removes the sins, especially those sins that cannot be reduced or removed easily. Sometimes you've got these different cleaners to remove some germs, some acid, or all these different detergents that we have. But again, we see that there are some stains that cannot be removed no matter what detergent and what cleaner you have. Says that this azah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is that cleaner which purifies and removes every wrong from the existence of an individual. Now, in another report, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he says that nafasul mahmoom li tasbih, that is someone who is aggrieved due to the suppression upon us, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, his sorrow or his breathing in this grief, that is tasbih, and his striving towards this grief and attending these majalis, that is worship. That is what Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam says. And then he further says that this hadith should be written in gold. It carries so much of weight, that is nafasul mahmoom, that is the breath of one aggrieved in our oppressions. It is his tasbih, and his striving for us is worship. Now, Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he observed these majalis himself. They used to sit, they used to cry, all those participants who used, his students who used to attend, and they used to weep, they used to cry upon Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now, when you see these statements from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he says that kullu aynin bakiyatun yawm al-qiyamah. Every eye will be crying on the day of judgment. Illa thalathatu ayun. Exception are three eyes. First says aynun bakat min khashyatillah. An eye that has cried due to the fear of Allah. وَعَيْنٌ غَضَّتْ مِنْ عَنْ مَحَارِمِ اللَّهِ. And an eye that has been protected from all the maharim and the haram of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. وَعَيْنٌ بَاتَتْ سَاهِرَةٌ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And an eye that has not slept or that has been kept awake in the way of Allah. So these three eyes, they will be happy on the day of judgment. So an eye that has cried in the fear of Allah, an eye that has kept itself safe from the haram of Allah, and an eye that has kept awake all night in the way of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So these eyes have to be protected. And especially an eye, كل عين باكية يوم القيامة إلا عين بكت الحسين. Says every eye will be crying except for that eye that has cried for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. So every eye will weep, but an eye that has wept for Hussein will not weep on the day of judgment. Now, such a lofty position and rank is for someone who cries for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Now, when we see statements from Imam Rida alayhi salam, one of them says, Yabna Shabib, it's quite a lengthy one. I'll just quote you one phrase of it. Say Imam Rida alayhi salam says to his companion, his name is Yabna, his son of Shabib. Imam says, O son of Shabib, in bakayta ala al-Hussein alayhi salam, hatta tasira dumu'uka ala khaddayk. When you cry for Hussein alayhi salam, and your tears, they roll down your cheeks, says, Ghafarallah laka kulla dhanbin aznabtah. All the sins that you have committed, Allah forgives all of them. صغيرا كان كبيرا قليلا كان أو كثيرا. May they be little, may they be a lot. All of them Allah forgives just for that one tear that rolled down your eyes on your cheeks, and that is in the grief and sorrow of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. He further says that in سرك أن تكون معنا في الدرجات العلا, if you want to be with us in the highest and the loftiest positions of the heaven, says فَحْزَنْ لِحُزْنِنَا وَافْرَحْ لِفَرَحِنَا. You be sad in our sorrows, you be happy in our joys. You'll be with us in the highest levels and the stations of the heaven. Now, these question may come to your mind that crying for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein has such magnificent effects. How is that? How is it possible? It has some attachments to it, and one must be a friend of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, must have accepted the wilayat of Abu and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, and anyone who cries for Abu Abdullah will see the benefit. May he be the faithful or may he be faithless. They will see the benefits for being associated and crying for Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. Quran says there are two things that no matter what the faith of an individual is, he benefits from that. One is ihsan, doing good, and secondly, zulm, someone who oppresses another, may he be a faithful or a faithless, he will see the consequences of that, definitely. Likewise, doing good, someone who does good to someone, faithful or faithless, he will be rewarded. And that is what Allah says, هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ, is the reward of good but good. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam applies this on a mu'min, on a kafir, on a good, on a sinner, and say that a kafir, a drunk, a gangster does good, he will benefit. Heaven may not be given to them as a reward, but he will benefit from other benefits that Allah Ta'ala has. Now this crying and mourning and weeping for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein has a similar effect. There's a book written by Shahid Dast Ghaib, and the name of the book is Dastanhay Shagef, which means that amazing stories have been mentioned. He writes this incident in that book, says that in India, one of these Hindus, he died, and as their custom is, they took him for cremation, cremated him for all day, and they say that the entire body, it got turned to ashes. His hand and his chest did not. They were amazed that how come we burnt and we fried everything, and it doesn't take that long for a body to turn into ashes, and how come this body hasn't? And then when they analyzed, one of them said that we don't know the whereabouts or what his faith was. But that what we did notice throughout his life is that he participated in the matam and in the lamenting, in the azar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and he used to use his hand to beat his chest in sorrow and in grief of Sayyid al-Shuhada. So a hand that has got connected to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and that chest that has got connected to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, that doesn't burn. And then they say that we cannot cremate him, so you take him and bury him in the graveyard of the Muslims. We feel that he is a Muslim, and that's the reason. So that happens as a result of this excessive bond and love that a person has towards Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. In this grand creation of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, in a hadith, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that Al-Bakka'un Khamsa, those who wept in this grand creation of Allah, they are 5. First, Prophet Adam alayhi salam, Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam, Fatima salamullahi alayha, and finally it's Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. Now these 5 personalities, they cried so much. Now Prophet Yaqub, he cried due to the loss of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. He cried for 40 days, as a result of which he had lost his sight, his eyes went white. And then Prophet Yaqub, Prophet Adam also cried for Tawbah, and Prophet Yusuf also. Then we have Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha. She cried for her father after after Rasulullah so much in those 90 days, or in those 70 days, 75 days, or 95 days after Rasulullah, so much that she got enlisted into those Bakka'in. And then we've got Prophet Ishaq also. He used to cry due to the fear of the day of judgment. And then we have Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, who cried for 40 years for Karbala. And he also is among those who is among the Bakka'in, and someone who got enlisted in in this list of Baka'in, in the shortest time is Hazrat Fatima, Salamullahi alayha. Now it is the night of the first, and we'll talk a little bit about how this whole tragedy unfolds and how it ends up into Ashura. So very briefly, the history of Karbala, and that is the departure from Medina. And to understand the aims of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam, one should know the chains of events that led to this historical unfolding. The incidents, the meetings that Imam has, his letters, and then the speeches he gave, some historical background needs to be known. Now today, the political atmosphere, that is lack of security, safety, will be discussed, and the reason why the Imam, he stood his talks with Muhammad Hanafiya, his brother, his meeting with Salama, and that is the wife of the Prophet, and all of them en route to Karbala from Medina. On the 26th of Rajab, the year 60 after Hijrah, it is the day when Muawiyah, he enters the hell. That is the day when he dies. And a very dangerous environment was there for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And on the night of the 28th of Rajab, which was Thursday, Imam with his family, he quickly sets off from Medina. He witnesses, and all these witnesses, they prove that his life was in danger and the atmosphere was very dangerous. And throughout, Imam was reciting this ayah, فخرج منها خائفا يترقب قال رب نجني من القوم الظالمين. That is, he left that's the ayah regarding Prophet Musa alayhi salam, where he was fearful and also vigilant, and he left the city and he was saying that رب نجني من القوم الظالمين, Allah save me from this wrongdoing lot. Says Imam Hussein alayhi salam also was reciting the same ayah that Prophet Musa had recited. Now Quran says that Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he fled from Egypt in a night in a very fiery situation. Imam Hussein also, he left Medina, and this ayah is a proof that he wasn't safe there. Another quote we have, and in the maqatil that are recited on the day of Ashura, there it says that ما كان من أهل بيت أشد خوفا منا حين خرجنا من المدينة. Says no Ahl Bayt was ever such scared and in such dangerous situation as us when we left Medina. Now the reason for this insecurity was that Muawiyah had advised his son Yazid, La'natullahi alayhima, that in your rule, 4 men, they will create problems and you be very vigilant. Now instructions of the father Muawiyah to his son Yazid. He says that first, Abdullah bin Umar, he is the son of the second Khalifa. And then Abdul Rahman bin Abu Bakr, son of the first Khalifa, Abdullah bin Zubayr, and then Hussein ibn Ali. Says that these 4 people, they are the ones who may cause problems for you. So be very vigilant, so don't mess with them. Then he says that Abdullah bin Umar, the son of the first Khalifa, and Abdul Rahman bin Abu Bakr, the son of the first Khalifa, then you can tempt them, you can offer them, and you can take them on board. Abdullah bin Zubayr and Hussein ibn Ali says will never agree with you and they will never swear allegiance with you. So don't be after getting their bay'at, their allegiance. Abdullah bin Zubayr, he says that no matter where he goes in the world, he will be accessible to you. You can easily get hold of him. He will have no standing, he has no standing, and he cannot unite people, and people will not even cluster and gather with him. Then says Muawiyah, the father, to his son Yazid, says Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, beware, he will never be with you, he will never approve you, and act in a way that he does not oppose you. Now, this was the policy of Muawiyah for 10 years of his rule, and he worked in a way that Imam also could not object. He did not. That is how he went throughout his rule. But Yazid, um, some exclusive peculiarities he had in him, always drunk, hence he was never in his senses. He sought advice from the Jews and the Christians who were around him. And then the reason for that is because the apostle, the treaties that he had signed, they had signed between the Jews and the Christians had signed with Islam. They had excessive hate and disgust towards the Prophet. That's the reason why he sought help and advice from those Jews and the Christians. In one of the advices, a letter be written to Walid bin Ataba, the governor of Medina. He wrote from Yazid ibn Muawiyah to Amir al-Mu'mineen, the governor of Medina. Upon the receipt of this letter, without delay, I want you to take allegiance from the following three. And who are they? And if they deny, behead them. First, take allegiance, bay'at from Hussein ibn Ali, Abdullah bin Umar, and Abdullah bin Zubayr. So no mention of Abdul Rahman bin Abu Bakr, the son of the first Khalifa. So it seems that he wasn't, he had already died. Now, from the contents of this letter, it is understood that Imam's life was in danger and the atmosphere was extremely dangerous. Walid bin Ataba summoned Imam for bay'at. It was midnight on the 27th of Rajab. Imam knew the consequences, and he says that Hussein, if he wants to give allegiance to someone, it's not going to be in the hiding and behind the back and away from the people. It has to be during the day and amidst the people and in the light. And on the 28th of Rajab, Imam, he left Medina. Now, when he's departing to Medina, Imam has three meetings. The first meeting is with his brother, Muhammad bin Hanafiya. Muhammad bin Hanafiya, he is the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam, and the mother is Khawla Hanafiya, and she is the daughter of Qais ibn Ja'far. His family name, surname, is from the mother's tribe, a very strong man, trusted by his father, participated in many battles during the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and in the battles of Siffin and Jamal, he played a very important role, portrayed his great loyalty to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And after the shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, a few people, they switched to the imamats of Muhammad Hanafiya, saying that he is the awaited Mahdi, that Muhammad bin Hanafiya. So he has not died and he is in hiding. Now this is the opinion of those people, and this lot they are known as Kaysaniya. And they believe that he will return, that is Muhammad Hanafiya will return. Now Imam spoke to this exalted brother, Muhammad bin Hanafiya, in his first meeting, and says that to you and your household is all my sincere support, Muhammad Hanafiya says. And Imam then said, and how do you portray this loyalty? He replied, you are the most respectful and the most honorable and the most deserving before me. And my humble opinion to you about Abdullah al-Hussein will be that Muawiyah has died, distance from Yazid's bayat, and send your representatives to all parts of the Islamic world and inform your opinion to them. And if they unanimously accept, officially inform your imamat and your leadership. And if there was a dispute and they did not agree, nothing would lessen your greatness and your virtue. But I fear that people would dispute, some would accept, some would deny. Now the two would fight. And that what I do suggest is that Imam, he prayed for him, and then may Allah grant every good to you for all your well wishes towards us, the Ahlul Bayt. Now, when we study the history of Karbala, we see that Muhammad bin Hanafiya is not with the Imam in Karbala. There are two possibilities over here. One of them is that Imam had instructed him to stay in Medina. The second possibility that that ulama like Allama Hilli he has mentioned this says that in the letters that he replies to Sayyid Mahna says the reason why Muhammad Hanafiya was not in Karbala, he had to stay back in Medina, is because in these battles he was so good looking and so smart and very strong and brave. He was jinxed by those magicians or whatever those people of that time were, as a result of which he was paralyzed and he was ill. So he couldn't participate. That's the reason why Imam did not take him to Karbala. He stayed back in Medina. So that was the first meeting with his half brother, Muhammad bin Hanafiya. The second meeting Imam has prior to leaving Medina is with his other half brother, Umar Atraf. He is also the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. And when he got Umar Atraf, when he got to know that Imam is setting off, leaving Medina, said, I heard my brother about Muhammad Hassan ibn Ali that our father had said, and there was a sob in his throat and he couldn't continue to talk. His eyes were filled with tears. Here Abu Abdullah Hussein says to his brother that you heard from our father that and you heard from Imam Mushtaba that I will be killed. Imam replied, do you think that I do not know? I know that and I'm aware, but the divine decree is such that I have to submit. Now the third meeting that Imam has before he leaves Medina is with Salama. Salama, a very honorable lady, and she is among the first immigrants to travel to Yemen with Ja'far bin Abu Talib, and her husband is martyred. She returns to Mecca and later moves to Medina. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam marries her. She is among the most sincere and devotees of Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alaiha. And in this issue of Fadak also, she went to the usurpers, to the Ghasibin, and witnessed in favor of Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alaiha. In reply, they said witnesses of a woman is not accepted. And in reply, Hazrat Zahra said that is, this is that very lady for whom the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that she is among those heavenly ladies, and even her witness was not accepted. Now, in this meeting that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein has prior to leaving Medina, here when he comes and meets Salama, he addresses her as Ya Ummah, mother. Now Imam gives her a note and then says that his wasiyah also, that whosoever comes after me to you first and asks for this note, which is my will and wasiyah, he will be the Imam after me. So here we understand that the first witness for the imamat of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is Salama. That when Imam Sajjad, after the tragedy of Karbala, and then when they come to Medina, and he comes straight to Salama, and then he addresses her as Ya Ummah, just like Abu Abdullah al-Hussein addressed her as Ya Ummah, mother, and says that I've come to take the will my dad had given to you, my father had given to you. And then and no one else knew that Imam Hussein has given a will and wasiyah to Salama. When Imam comes, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam had also mentioned that whosoever comes to you and wants and seeks this wasiyah, know that he is the Imam after me. So from among the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, Salama is the first witness to the imamat of Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam. Now this was a little bit regarding the background of the departure of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and that is moving towards from Medina to Mecca, and then he wears the ihram for Hajj, but then he had to abandon that ihram and leave that place because that honor and sanctity of the of Masjid al-Haram and that haram was such that Imam did not want that to be polluted by a bloodshed, because he knew that those people who are against him. They don't want him and they don't care where that bloodshed is going to be. So protecting the honor and the sanctity of the haram, Imam also abandoned his ihram and he left. Now it is the night of the 1st of Muharram, and we will get permission from Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha. So the first tear that we will shed is in the Mazlumiyat of Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha, who is in reality the mother of Ashura. So if we cry for Hussein and Abu Abdullah for all these days, she is the mother of Ashura. More tears have to be shed for her. Now we see that so many questions come to our mind. That is, Imam Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salatu wassalam, did he not know that if Fatima, she gets up and she opens the door, she will be brutally attacked and she will have all those fatal wounds? It is our aqidah that the death and the shahadat certificate of every individual is signed by the Imam. So he is that Imam of that time. Did he not know? Does he not have to sign that shahadat certificate of Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha? That attack also that takes place on the house of Wahi, she opened the door. And one of the other beautiful things that we see there in Medina and over here in Karbala, so much of a resemblance and similarity is there. Here Amirul Mu'mineen is present and then she goes and opens the door. And there Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he takes the women and children also with him. So one of the reasons that we see for that is so that the world sees generations to come after Karbala that what a detestable lot they were, who had no mercy to women, who had no mercy to children, and how they brutally killed those children on the day of Ashura, how those earrings were snatched from those daughters of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, how those tents were burnt down where all these women and children lived, and that how waters were abandoned that never happened before. So it was that Mal'un Abu Sufyan who abandoned water in the battle of Badr, and then it was his son Muawiyah who abandoned in the battle of Siffin, and his grandson Yazid who did that in the battle of Karbala. Now, when we look into the Masa'ib, one of the statements that we have from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that the afflictions that were seen in Karbala, they were great, they were massive. In less than a day, everything perished. So many from among the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they got killed. But then when he says that, when I look into the Masa'ib of Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali alayhi salam says, there in Medina, the Masa'ib, they are Adha wa Amar, more painful and very brutal. Now Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha, when she is wounded, and it is the last days of her life, the two, they come and say that, Ya Ali, we haven't seen Fatima ever since she's fallen ill. We want to come and see her. Amirul Mu'mineen says, I'll ask her if she allows. Yes. Now this noble lady, when Amirul Mu'mineen comes and says that they want to meet you, do you allow? She says, Al-Bayt Baytuk, Ya Ali, this house is yours. And women, they are obedient to their husbands to whatever decisions they make. And then she says, okay, if they want to come, you can come. They come to see Hazrat Fatima. They greet her with the salam and she does not reply. She turns away in their presence and sits in a way. And then they start crying. The first one starts crying. And then she says, did you not hear that on that day, the Prophet, he summoned both of you past midnight and you two came? They said yes. And then she says, do you remember what the Prophet said to you? They said, yes. What was that? Rida Fatima min ridaya. The Prophet said that the contentment of Fatima is my contentment. وَسَخَطِ Fatima min sakhati. That whosoever disrespects her, hurts her, has hurt me. فَمَنْ أَحَبَّ فَاطِمَةَ ابْنَتِي أَحَبَّنِي. Whosoever loves my daughter Fatima has indeed loved me. وَمَنْ أَرْضَى فَاطِمَةَ فَقَدْ أَرْضَانِي. Whosoever makes her happy and seeks her contentment and rida has indeed sought my rida and my contentment. وَمَنْ أَسْخَطَ فَاطِمَةَ فَقَدْ أَسْخَطَنِي. Whosoever has hurt her has indeed hurt me. Did you not hear the Prophet say that to you? Then why did you do this? Then why did you attack? And it was, again, when we see these masaib of the day that unfolded in Medina, in the house of Wahi, one of the statements after Hazrat Fatima, we see that Amirul Mu'mineen on and off, he cries. And there he says that these, and his eyes were filled with tears. And when inquired, Ya Ali, what is the reason for this cry of yours? He says, Shakkara lahu darbatan darabaha Fatima bisawt famatat wa fi adudiha atharun ki'annahu dumr. Says that Qunfuz, the slave of the second, says he came and he hit Fatima with that cover of the sword. And says that as a result of that hitting of his, disrespect he showed to Hazrat Fatima, he was rewarded, he was thanked, he was praised, and none of his benefits were reduced, none of his wages or salaries were reduced, everything remained intact. And then he was thanked and lauded for lashing Fatima, salamullahi alayha. She dies due to that beating and the wounds she saw. The bruises and swelling on her arm were such that as if something has been tied to her arm. Now here Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam says that Fatima, she had a wasiyya. Amirul Mu'mineen was in the masjid with and his age at that time is 32. A young man, strong, brave. He is informed that his son, the two sons, Imam Hassan and Hussein, they come and say that father, mother, she has deteriorated. He comes, he stands up to rush to his house. Now the Maqatil, they say that his abad got tangled in his feet. He falls to the ground. Twice he falls, 3 times he falls to the ground, on his face. Comes home and sees that Fatima, she has departed. Now here, Imam alayhi salam, the ziyarat that we recite when we go to Najaf, we say that Assalamu alayk, Ya waliyallah, anta wal awwalu mazloom, that you are the first oppressed, wa awwalu man ghusil haqqo, the first one whose haqq and whose right was seized. In one of these reports that we have, that in the last moments of Hazrat Fatima's life, when Amirul Mu'mineen comes from the masjid by her side, says that with that broken arm of hers, Amirul Mu'mineen was shedding tears by Hazrat Fatima. She brings her hand by the eyes of Amirul Mu'mineen, wipes his tears off with her hand, and then wipes that tear onto her chest. Amirul Mu'mineen says that, Fatima, why did you do that? She says, Anta awwalu madhloom, you are the first oppressed, Ya Ali, you are the first oppressed. And I've heard my father say that the tear of a mazloom is tabarruk. And I want to meet my Lord with this tabarruk on me, and that is the tear of Ali, the most oppressed. Now here, the incidents that unfold in Medina, she has a wasiyah that Ali, I want you to shroud me at night, wash me at night, bury me at night. No trace of my grave remain. No one ever knows where I've been buried. And especially those, they must not participate in my funeral. They must not attend. They must not be part of it. Amirul Mu'mineen washes the pure body of Hazrat Fatima with the help of Asma bint Umais. Here, Asma, she pours the water. Amirul Mu'mineen washes the body. Says to everyone, be very quiet, be very gentle, no one raise their voice. It is the wasiyah of Fatima that no one should find out. Now when Asma wants to pour water, says, Beriz abe ravan Asma, beruye jism mein thare Zahra, bali ahiste ahiste. Says Asma, pour water on Zahra, but be very gentle, be very quiet. Even those droplets make no sound so that no one finds out that what has happened in this house. All of a sudden, Amirul Mu'mineen, he screams. Here, Asma says, Ya Ali, what happened? Was it not you who was inviting us all to sabr and patience? She says that Zahra, she had hidden this wound from me, this wound that Mal'oon, he had hit on her body. Now when the body got prepared and she was shrouded, Amirul Mu'mineen says to his two sons, Halummu tazawwaju min ummikum. Children, come and say farewell to your mother. This is the last meeting that you are going to have with your mother, and after this you will not see her again. The children, they come and they plead and they cry. Here on one side it is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, on the other hand it is Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam. Now here Amirul Mu'mineen and all those who witness that, they say that Ushhidullah innaha qad hannat wa annat wa maddat yadayha wa dhammat huma ila sadriha maniyya. Says that we saw that her hands that were tied in her shroud, she brought her two hands out and she hugged the two sons. And then here the angels from the skies, they raise, they cry that, Ya Ali, take those children away, as over here in the skies there's this mourning, lamenting and crying in the azah of Hazrat Zahra. Ya Abul Hasan, irfa'huma anha falaqad abkiya wallah malaikat as-sama. By God, the angels of the skies, all of them, they are in azah and crying. Amirul Mu'mineen brings the body with just a few of those Bani Hashim who were there, lays her to rest, and then says, Assalamu alayki ya Rasulallah, anni wa an ibnatika nazilati fi jawarik. Salam be upon you, Ya Rasulullah, from me, and I am returning this amana that you had given to me. Forgive me, Ya Rasulullah, I am returning not as you had given to me. Now this Zahra, who is emerging, who is embarking on this journey and will be meeting you, is not the same. This is a broken, shattered Zahra who is coming to you, and she will tell you what this nation did to me and to us and what unfolded upon us after you. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إلهي بحق الزهرة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها، يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم أحينا حياة محمد وآل محمد وأمتنا ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة محمد وآل محمد وفي الآخرة شفاعة محمد وآل محمد. Ilahi, The tears that were shed here in love and in mahabbat of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, make them an asset of ours in our graves, in our barzakh, in our qiyamah. Our children to be enlisted among the best of Muslims. Ilahi, all those who are ill and ailing, who have requested for du'as, grant them shifa. All those who have departed, Allah, forgive them, elevate their ranks. Hasten in the return of our Imam, our Master, our Hujjah, and count us all among the best of His servants and those who seek shahadat in His service. وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Yeah, I've set up a request.
He can.
So अभी हो गया ये request हो गया बाहर कंप्यूटर से और जिस request वीडियो सॉन्ग so we can approve that so शायद को बोल हमारा अभी सीरीज नहीं स्टार्ट है so that's it.
So he is free. He's free to. Thank you so much, sir. बहुत शुक्रिया.
وبقي الليل والنهار ولا يعلم الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم شب جمعة وشب زيارتي يا أبا عبد الله شب اول محرم دست ادب به سینت بگذار السلام علی الحسین و علی علی ابن شهادت رسید مسلم ابن عقیل است بیایید شب اول محرم بریم در خانه مسلم آمد وارد شهر کوفه شد به نام دعوت کوفیان هزارها در هزار ماه نوشتند برا مسلم آمدن نماز را پشت سر مسلم خواندند
پشت مسلم و خالی کردن مسلم نقیل دست دو با بچه هاش امو محمد رو گرفت حرکت کرد جایی رو پیدا نکرد مسلم تو یک بنبست رسید کنار درمی خانه نشست یک خانومی بیرون آمد آقا شما کی هستید نامحرمی پشت در خانه من نشستید من اینجا باید منتظر بمانم تا فرزندم از مسافرت برگرده آقا از جلوی در خانه من بلند شد زمان حال مسلم چه میگه مسلم در کوفه غریبم من و کاشانه ندارم خانوم گویی برم خانه ولی خانه ندارم آی خانوم گر تکیه به دیوار تو کردم ز غریبیست در شهر شما خانه و کاشانه ندارم آقا شما کی هستی؟ خانوم من مسلم سفیر حسینم میگه تو خاک بر سر من شما سفیر امیت دلدارت من با شما این گونه رفتار کردم آفتی رایی کردی آی شب بود آمدن دور خانه تو من رو گرفتن مسلم واس نکردن به هر نحو حریف مسلم نشدن مردم